Hey guys, it's MiracleMAX here. Man, I don't know what they've done to this poor old iPad 2, but check it out. The screen is absolutely verschnookered. Even this corner here, part of that's missing. To make matters worse, even the aluminium corners have been dented and damaged. Well, I suppose it's no use complaining about it. I better get into it, see if I can fix it. Challenge accepted. Fortunately, it still powers up if I get the home button up and running, so it still works. That's all good. But if we swipe across there and we try and put in, any digits, you can see that they come up on this half of the screen. But over here, I've got nothing on the digitiser or touch screen. She's absolutely knackered over that side of things. So it's a judgment call, I realise, but just going back to this screen here, the home screen, I can see that there doesn't appear to be any problems over this particular area. Even the little icon down the corner here is working. So I believe that a digitiser should fix this. But still, with all these corners damaged, as you can see, still got my work cut out. So here's a trick and tip for you guys. If you plan to do these sort of repairs on a regular basis, like screen replacement on a tablet or a phone, it's not a bad idea to get yourself a little kit, a collection of tools that will help you to do this more efficiently. Now, some of these things I've had for some time, some spudges, etc., which I use on a regular basis, my plastic ones, but the rest I actually picked up for around about $10 for some of these tools that came as a kit. Which I found really useful. Some of these screwdrivers are pretty average, the tips are pretty dodgy, but as for the rest, these plastic tools are quite good. So it's not a bad little investment for $10 or so, and at that point you can afford to damage some of these ones. As you can see here, it's a little bit on the dodgy side. I've given it a bit of grief, but it doesn't matter. There's plenty more in the kit that I can use. So it was well worth the $10 that I spent. You've probably seen me use my heat gun quite often on things like tablets, phones, etc. I'll put up some links to previous videos that I've done. But this is actually quite a good investment. They don't cost that much. I think I paid about $40 for this particular one. It's well worth spending the money on it if you're going to do these repairs on a regular basis. Because the screen is so bad, it may be a little bit difficult to figure out which tools are best to use. Generally speaking, I'd have no trouble using a metal blade stylus like this or a lifting tool, but because it's so shattered, it may be a bit of a problem. I could use some smaller plastic styles, but of course when you're using your heat gun near it, you can end up melting some of that as well. Some of these bigger blades might be a better option because of the fact that they have a larger surface area. But I may have to use my metal tool to start with just to get leverage under there so that I can get the bigger tools under. But I'll chuck the heat gun on there and just see what happens. I'm going to focus on this area here because this is the least damaged area. Normally I wouldn't do that, but the screen that I'm getting has a home button in it already, so it shouldn't really be an issue if I damage any of the wiring in behind here. I will have to be careful, of course, so I'll start up this end, but this appears to be the least damaged section, and here as well, sort of. You can see the glass is starting to shatter already, so it's a little bit difficult to do that. I might just heat it up a little bit more at this point. Look at that, it's just breaking away, it's hopeless. Just keep in mind it's only held on by double-sided tape, so you don't want to damage it in any way, like the video underneath, which starts about here, so only focus on this black area here. But it's going to be a painful operation trying to get this off. It's pretty badly damaged. Oops. Now we're getting a few up. Just off that seal. Yeah, it's pretty dodgy as though, hey? Now I believe normally you would go on the other side of that seal, but it's just going to shatter all the glass, so hopefully I can get around that seal and then pull the seal off if that's not on the new screen. A real balance between trying to heat it enough but not too much so that you don't damage anything. At the moment I'm down to little by little. It's a pain in the neck. It's taken forever and a day, but just got to carefully heat it up and then just chisel away a little bit. There's a little pile over here that I've collected just from that little corner, and that's scraping it, heating it, scraping it, heating it, so it certainly takes some time. Just got to be really careful with those shards. They're pretty sharp and you just want to take them up one at a time sort of thing, or a couple at a time. So this is becoming a real pain in the butt. Not happy Jan. I'm moving along right to the ends and able to get most of it up, but I've still got a few bits that are holding it in place. So now for the big reveal. I've finally got the thing off. Don't forget it folds this way. You've got your circuitry that needs to be hooked up here. The screen has to come off to plug it into the back of the circuit board. I did have a little bit of trouble with this connector here. It was actually stuck to the digitiser, but fortunately I've managed to get it off, and once I clean it up it should be fine. Home button area, which remember I said is going to get replaced on the actual digitiser itself. Where it locates down here looks okay, and of course the camera over this side is all right as well. But check out the pile of stuff that I had to pull off just to get it off. The next part of the process is to remove the LCD, or the actual video screen, from the housing. This is done by removing the 4 screws that hold it in place. This is so we can get our connector off for our digitiser. This should now allow the video screen to come up. Very carefully, of course, we don't want to damage that at all. Then we need to remove this connector here. These have a little wire clip holder that holds the connector in place. So just gently lift that up, pops out of place, and then you should be able to remove this particular connector. There we go. Just wiggle it on the sides. That's now out. So once that's out, make sure that you protect it. Don't want it scratched or anything, so it's a good idea to perhaps blow it off and then wrap it in a sheet or something along those lines. Next, of course, is the digitiser connector itself. So that needs to be carefully removed. And I'd say it's sort of stuck in the framework itself. Just carefully pull that out. There we go. Okay, the actual digitiser connectors now have little latches on the side here, so we just need to get under those, pop those up. There's 2 of them, of course. Get underneath that little fella too without damaging it. Might have to undo that perhaps. There we go. That just pops up. Then of course once you've done that, you can lift up that little ribbon and just gently remove it. It should come out once you've got the sticky stuff out. There we go, pops out of place. So that's our digitiser out of the road. Start repairing the damage that's been done on the actual framework of this iPad. I've just spent a reasonable amount of time out in the shed trying to repair the corners on this poor old iPad. Now, fair enough, it's not amazing, but they were pretty dodgy to start with. But in all fairness, my talents of years ago working with panel beating, etc., I think helped me. But as you can see, they're pretty average, but they're better than they were. The important thing is that the glass doesn't hit the corners. If it does that, you risk breaking the glass again. Some of the tools that I ended up using, even though they seemed a little rough, were the metal spudger. I actually used this corner here because this is rounded and I could use it as a chisel to push the metal out that had been damaged. I also ended up using, believe it or not, a hammer. a file, and eventually I ended up using a points file, which is used off a car. So all in all, it worked out okay. Nothing fantastic, but the important thing is that it doesn't damage the new digitiser when I fit it. I've also put the new digitiser in place just to check and make sure that where the glass is coming around, it doesn't interfere with the body of the iPad, and the work that I've done is going to be okay. So I've checked all the corners, they're okay here and here, and of course up the top they appear to be all right as well. The digitiser plonked into place, no problems. We're now back in the lab and pretty much at the pointy end of the repair. What we've done so far is repair the iPad's corners. They were really badly damaged, as you can see, but I've managed to get them fairly good at the moment. One other thing too that needed to be done was the bezel, or the plastic side of things up here, that is in between the iPad body itself and the digitiser screen that fits on the front. Well, kind of got pretty much knackered when it was pulled apart, when I had to pull it apart with the heat gun. So fortunately you can buy the new bezel itself. It's not too dear, and that can be fitted into place so that the repair is professional. Because I'm fitting a new bezel in this particular area here, it locks right in the corner of the iPad body. Now all this gunky stuff has got to come off, otherwise the bezel won't fit into place correctly. So what I'm using at the moment is a bit of isopropyl alcohol. Just spray a bit in a little jar here. Now obviously try and keep this away from electronic components, but it works quite well just cleaning up the body itself. And you can get rid of all those little bits stuck right in the corner there, as you can see there. So before we get overconfident, it's a good idea to partially reassemble the tablet and fire it up. You can see here that the digitiser has been put back into place here, these two little connectors. Now they do each half of the screen, so make sure that you get the connector pushed in properly. It's got a little white line that has to go all the way forward to make sure that it's pulled into the connector. The LCD screen here, it's got a little gold connector there, as you can see, has a little wire clip that flips over, so make sure that that's put into place. I'll just lay that down basically now so that I can get a feel and make sure that everything is working. So before we zip this thing up for the last time, it's pretty important to make sure that all the functions work. Just for the meantime, we'll do a couple of little checks to make sure that all the functions are working properly. So notice all the little icons are starting to jiggle. We should, in theory, be able to move this right around the screen, and if we can, that indicates that the screen is operating correctly. Oops, put him back there. There we go. And the screen is operating properly, so all the touch screen has been connected properly. There's two sections to the touch screen, and both sides of the screen is working okay. As I said, I've already checked the camera. I managed to take one photo before it lost all its storage, but that works fine. But probably the next thing we need to check is the internet and make sure that that's working okay. Put it on your favourite channel, make sure the sound works fine.
Hi everyone, it's Miss Bell today, and did you know that even kids can help adults find bathroom leaks?
Yep, sounds like it's working okay. Okay, it's all ready to be put back together. It's also crucial to make sure that the LCD is spotless. Keep in mind that any dust or fingerprints or anything that are on there now will be there. Once this digitiser is in place, she's stitched down, and that's as good as it's going to get. So make sure it is all absolutely spotless. I'm not concerned about this sort of stuff over here because that has a plastic static strip that's going to come off shortly, so I'm not concerned about all that sort of stuff. That'll come off on the digitiser, but for now my video LCD is the important one. I'm now going to put in my 4 little screws over here, and that will hold my LCD in place. Fitting the new bezel at the moment. That's that piece of plastic that goes in between the housing itself and the digitiser. When you fit it, it's got tape on the back of it that you need to pull off. And also make sure that you push it into the housing itself. There's a little lip that the bezel goes into, so just push it in with your fingernail and that will locate it under that lip. Then your digitiser should fit in there nicely. And now the all important thing is to remove this piece of plastic that is covering the inside of the digitiser. I've shown you what happens if this gets left on one of my other videos, so whatever you do, make sure you get rid of that. Of course, then there's the double-sided tape, the plastic that's covering that. We need to remove that, so we'll pull that out as well. You can see here the camera has two little holes here and here, and that's where this camera bracket is located. So I'm going to put that in first so that those holes line up. There we go. So yeah, not a bad idea to start from this particular corner perhaps. Just work your way around from there. It goes in the corner. Make sure that wire goes under, of course. Let's go the opposite direction, fold it backwards. There we go. Just gently move it around, making sure the bezel is located correctly as well. So just work your way around it, just pushing it into the bezel. Little plastic piece there, of course, and making sure that it locates into the corners correctly too. This is not something I would normally do, but because the tablet was so badly damaged in the corners, it's making it hard for the digitiser to sit down. So what I did was just gently heat up the glass a little bit, and I've poled it up with books there, and I'm going to give it some time for the double-sided tape to adhere to the body and the digitiser. I've left the weight of all these books on top of the iPad overnight just to see if it will help it to stick down better. Let's have a look. It appears to be stuck down okay. I don't have any issues with it there. It's not bouncing back up again. Feels pretty good. I've left the static plastic on the digitiser on the outside so that the customer can pull it off themselves. I like to leave it on there so I don't put all my sticky fingerprints over there while I'm working on it. But let's see if it fires up. There we go. So that's another successful job done. Time to put it to sleep. So it's ready for the customer tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, this tutorial on replacing a digitiser on an iPad 2. If you enjoyed the video and you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and feel free to comment down below. Until next time, this is MiracleMAX signing off. We'll catch you later, guys.